Steve, I want to play some clips for you here. We'll start with Rex Ryan, former NFL head coach, current ESPN football broadcaster. He's out here talking about Deion should be a candidate to replace Mike McCarthy as the Cowboys fall into dissent. And Rex Ryan's talking about Deion and Shedeur in a package deal. Let's hear from Rex Ryan first. Play the clip.
No, look, and here's the crazy thing. Look, they got to restart, but they got to do something that, in my opinion, like, how are you going to fix it? Well, I look at a couple of teams recently. All right, I look at the Lions. Who'd they hire? One of their former players,
right? Mm-hmm.
Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the Houston Texans?
Former
right
player.
Down the road. Former player, one of their former players.
D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans. All right. I can see Aaron Glenn going to New Orleans next year. All right, or the Jets. You know, a former player. All right. Deion Sanders may be in play here, and I'm going to tell you, they need something. They need to have somebody that has the pride in that damn organization. Being a Dallas Cowboy, the pride you take in it. And by the way, Deion, everywhere he's been, has been kicking you know what. Mm-hmm. All right, Jackson State, they were unbelievable when he was there. He takes Colorado. Right now, they're 7-2. Nobody saw that coming. They're playing in the big, whatever, the damn
Big 12,
now.
yeah.
Big 12. Like, I'm just saying, that because I already know Mike McCarthy's a good football coach, and he's going to be out the door. There's no doubt about it. The whole thing's going to be blown up. But watch what happens. They need that. How are you going to get this kid back on board? He's going to have to damn respect that guy that comes in that building. You're not going to respect Deion Sanders? He's twice the player you are. All right? And you know what? I coached Deion Sanders. Great teammate.
So that's Rex Ryan on my arch nemesis, Deion Sanders. And I can't really dispute anything Rex Ryan is saying there, although I will try on this after your thoughts, Steve.
A couple of weeks ago when we broached this subject, I thought it was a crazy idea. Jason, looking at the way the Buffaloes have developed as a solid, workmanlike, legitimate top 25 team that's in the playoff hunt, looking at how bad Dallas is, and the argument laid out by Coach Ryan, you know what? I'm kind of aboard this. And here's the other variable. Look, I don't want to get macabre about this, but Jerry Jones is pretty much late into the fourth quarter. He doesn't have a lot of time left. He might be desperate. Like, look, he needs to have one more Lombardi trophy to his name, or I'm just telling you, people are always going to associate him as the guy, not that won 3 Super Bowls, but the guy that got rid of Jimmy Johnson, whether that's fair or not. So there's opportunity added with desperation. Jason, I'm aboard. I'm on this. Believe it or not, I don't think it's the worst idea anymore.
Well, let me nitpick Rex Ryan here. Take Dan Campbell in Detroit. He's not the general manager. He's the head coach. Take D'Amico Ryan in Houston. He's not the general manager. He's the head coach. Deion goes to Dallas. He's going to go Bill Parcells. He wants to buy the groceries too. He doesn't just want to cook the groceries. He's going to want to buy the groceries. Deion's ego, far more enormous than Dan Campbell or D'Amico Ryan's. And he's got an owner who is desperate, who has been playing the role of general manager. And so Deion's going to want more control. He'll have leverage with the media in a back and forth if he and Jerry ever disagree. I think it could be a tiny bit high risk for Jerry Jones to make this move. He'll have to either surrender. I think he'd have to basically surrender all power to Deion Sanders, because Deion's going to want to buy the groceries the same way he's bought the groceries at Colorado.
Yeah, look, the head coach at a college program is the CEO. They are, in effect, their own general manager. And you're right, guys like Dan Campbell have Brad Holmes, who's just incredible at his job. But Deion just may say to Jerry, look, get me one guy. That's my son. And then I'm going to let you do your job and surround him with dogs, as he likes to say. That's an interesting. I hadn't thought about that. If does he really want to be GM? Because there's a mixed history of coaches who get big time opportunities and they leverage the GM spot. That does not always work out. And Jason, you talk about this being high risk. I don't disagree. It's a high risk move because look, just Rex Ryan, who I really like, points out all the success stories. Okay, what about Antonio Pierce? I can name you other examples where the ex-player does not turn into a great head coach. But again, great risk, great reward. Got to roll the dice once in a while.
I'm trying to think of a team, since Belichick's gone, I don't think there's a team now that has a head coach that's also the GM. And so are we past those days? And the Belichick thing, it worked for a while, but now everybody's saying it worked because of Brady, and you got to be the architect of your defense while you were the defensive coordinator. It doesn't work because ineffectively, you had Nick Caserio doing it forever too when they were in New England. They had guys. I'm not sure that. I think it's been wholly rejected by the NFL now.
Let's be honest. The insurance model is broken. Crowd Health puts your health care back in your hands. Use the promo code FEARLESS at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com, promo code FEARLESS.
The NFL now.
Andy Reid is not the general manager, but Andy and Brett Veach is, and he does a tremendous job. But Andy Reid has more power than the general manager. That's what I think the dynamic Deion will be looking for. And I don't, I question if Jerry can go for that, but do you think, again, D'Amico Ryan, Dan Campbell, do you think Deion Sanders, is this the way of the NFL now? It's former NFL players as head coach. Is this a little passing fad, or are they about to run the Bill Belichicks of the world completely out of football?
It's a good question. I bet we see this. We're broaching what Marshall Faulk was kind of asking for when we had him here, that he said we need more opportunity. He's talking front office, but the first step is really to go be a head coach somewhere. I think there's been guys doing it forever. Deion is such a star that he could go in and skip. Most of these guys had to work their way up. To go straight to head coach in the NFL from college, it doesn't happen that often.
I gotta keep it real. Deion has worked his way up as it relates to being a head coach in the NFL.
But head coach to head coach to head coach.
Got it. But Jackson State is somewhat starting at ground. It's like being an offensive or defensive coordinator at a Power 5. It's working your way up. Jackson State. You ever been to Jackson, Mississippi?
It's the poorest county in America, I think. One of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not safe there, and it's not he was there for 2.5 years. I have to get. He paid his dues as it relates to Jackson State, and then he took a Colorado job that, he didn't immediately go to Florida State or something like that. And look, who knows? Now Deion's also a candidate, at Florida State and these other high-powered places in college football. Does he even is pro football really the best fit for Deion?
That's a great question. So I used to, in 2000, in fact, I was just going through, my parents just moved houses, and so I got all my crap out of their house, and I went and looked at all of my old recruiting material. And they were not, this is 2007, 2008 when I'm getting recruited. Nothing on the front of this stuff was players. It was all Nick Saban, Gary Pinkel, the prime head coaches of all. That's the top guy. Whereas you don't market like that. It's possible Deion's less relevant when he goes because you have his son will pass him in relevance because he's the star of the team. And the head coach is the guy. These are the marketing material, and everything they put out is Deion Sanders, it is Gary Pinkel, it was Nick Saban, it's whoever. And so I do think Deion's an incredible narcissist. And I don't think he wants to go to a place where everybody's getting paid way more than he is, and he's less relevant.
Steve?
Yeah, Jason, you bring up Dan Campbell. The reason why it works, and I've studied this franchise a little bit as much as I can, he is not the GM, but he works in lockstep with Brad Holmes. who I believe is the modern day Ozzie Newsome. His hit rate on draft choices is incredible the last 3-4 years. And when you see them on draft day and leading into the process, they are side by side in sync. But Dan Campbell says, hey, let me coach him up. Let me have a bit of a say in what we're doing. Keep me abreast of what you're doing, but you're the GM. So again, if Deion Sanders, as a head coach, he said this last year, well, I don't do home visits in recruiting. They can come to me. Okay, so what makes you think he wants to go to the NFL Combine and go to all these pro days? I mean, that's work. That's a 365 a day job nowadays. Deion may just want to be on the field and lead men. He may not want to do all that other stuff that a GM does per se. And by the way, I don't think Jerry Jones is ever going to give that up. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it, but if he's a candidate for the Cowboys, he's going to be a candidate for other NFL jobs. He has said, and well, I think he said it in his Joel Klatt interview, that he's not following his son or Travis Hunter. I'm a lead. He's kind of indicated that he's not going to run off to the NFL and follow his son, that his place is in college football. But I think for his, there's parts of me that think for his personality, he doesn't want to go out and hit the recruiting trail. He might be better off in the NFL because, again, you know, you're saying he doesn't want to be general manager, but he's general manager of his college football team while sitting in his office in Boulder, Colorado. He could be general manager of the Dallas Cowboys while sitting in his office.
Jason, you say that, and look, I don't disagree, but I do remember when he was on NFL Network, and every time there was a player at the end of his contract or impending free agency, he'd always blurt out, pay that man. Like, in other words, every player should just get as much money as possible. So he has a player's mindset. So now he has to make that transition to being on the other side of the table. He's not saying pay that man. I'm just telling you, it's a very, very tough job from being an employer to an employee because the dynamics change.
Steve,
I'm just.
You think in college football today, in name, image, and likeness, players aren't saying, show me the money, and Deion is probably sitting on the other side. Yeah, pay that man. Pay Travis Hunter. Pay Shedeur Sanders. Pay LaJohntay Wester. I'm just not sure if it's any real difference.
Which is keeping him off the recruiting trail. I mean, that is the part, like
football league. There's a salary cap. There's a difference.
Players don't believe in salary cap.
I'm not sure he has to. I mean, to the point Steve was making, does he really want to go out and sit in those living rooms? Do you have to if you show up with $1.5 million?
No. And I'm telling you, didn't I just read where maybe there's a USC commit quarterback that maybe is now thinking about flipping to Colorado?
Julian Lewis.
I read the same thing.
They're starting to recruit themselves, and he's turned that into a little hotspot for kids and well-off media and all the videos, and it's the Truman Show at Colorado. I can't. I'm sitting here saying, like, his way has worked and won. I can't believe I have to say that. I'm not good with it, but I do have to admit it. His way has worked and won, and man, this guy's going to have a lot of options. He and his son. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a moment of Fearless.